didn't we just have a clip of her like a month ago bragging about how Bidenomics is working? We call this Bidenomics. Bidenomics is working. Now she's trying to distance herself from the unpopularity of the economy. Believe it or not, Kamala Harris is now signaling that she's trying to distance herself from the Biden-Harris administration. I wish I were joking about this. That's how stupid she thinks you are. You remember when this administration started, whenever you get a new president in, it's always, the Biden administration, the Trump administration, the Reagan administration, the Obama administration. For the first time in history, these people demanded that you refer to them as the Biden-Harris administration. If you go to the website for the White House, that's what it says: Biden-Harris administration, Biden-Harris administration, Biden-Harris administration. Although considering the fact that Joe Biden is, a vegetable at this point. I used to say that he has mashed potato for brains. I don't think he has anything for brains anymore. So we should really just be calling this the Harris-Biden administration, because with a lack of any other evidence to the contrary, Kamala Harris is the top-ranking official in the White House right now. This is her presidency. And so Kamala Harris is trying to separate herself from the Harris-Biden administration. Axios has the story this morning. Mike Allen and Jim Van de Hey. I don't know why that's what his name always sounds like in my head. Behind the curtain, the Harris plan to redefine herself. How many times has she been redefined? My friend Brian on Twitter said the other day, she's been reintroduced to the American people more often than the McRib sandwich, which is a lot tastier, I think. Kamala Harris, hoping to distance herself from President Biden's unpopularity on the economy, plans a new focus on middle-class worries and woes. Wait a second. This makes no sense. Maybe you guys can help me out in the comments section here, because last I checked, I heard from all of my moral, ethical, and intellectual superiors in the media and in the Democrat Party that we have the strongest economy on earth. We have the strongest, most robust economy on the planet. That was the golden Biden talking point for months and months and months. Why would anyone want to separate themselves from that? In fact, didn't we just have a clip of her like a month ago bragging about how Bidenomics is working? We call this Bidenomics. Bidenomics is working. Now she's trying to distance herself from the unpopularity of the economy. She plans a new focus on middle-class worries and woes. I thought Joe Biden was the champion of the middle class. Why it matters. I love how Axios writes things, because they're so unclear in their journalism that they actually have to put a bold header on it to let you know that what you're about to read tells you why this matters. Maybe if you were better writers, why it mattered actually would be self-evident from the actual journalism. All right, I'm sorry. I'm nitpicking, but I hate the way the media does their job. Beginning in North Carolina later this week with her first policy speech, and continuing next week with, her first policy speech. She's been the candidate for over 3 weeks now. They've been celebrating her as a transcendent political figure. This incredible, oh my gosh, the joy and the momentum, and look at look how well she's doing and how great she's doing, and all the crowds. She's giving her first policy speech. I love that they don't even realize their own irony when they write things like this, how they beclown themselves into oblivion. All right, I'm sorry. And continuing next week with the Democratic Convention in Chicago, Harris will tell Americans most for the first time who she is and how she governed. I'm your nominee now. None of you were given the chance to vote for me or against me, so maybe I should tell you who I am. But of course, she won't be telling you who she is. She'll be telling you what she wants you to think she is. And none of it will be challenged. Harris won't say it this bluntly in public, but her advisors do so privately. She wants to break with Biden on issues on which he's unpopular. First up, rising prices. Part of a highly choreographed effort to define herself, in some cases, redefine herself as a different kind of Democrat. Oh, she's a different kind of Democrat, all right. She's a Marxist. On Friday in Raleigh, she'll outline plans to lower costs of healthcare, housing, and food for middle-class consumers, and tell how she'll take on corporate price gouging. Well, that's fascinating, considering the Biden campaign was telling you how amazing and wonderful everything is, and up until now, she's been telling you the exact same thing. This is could somebody please tell journalists, and while they're at it, tell Kamala Harris that she's the actual incumbent? She's not running against an empty White House. She's running on 4 more years. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? If the answer is no, you should vote her out. Molly Hemingway at The Federalist and Fox News points it out. The simple test to determine whether any of this is true or a lie is for her to begin implementing the policies now, today. Why wait for November? If you've got ideas on how to fix things, do it now. Explain in extensive detail, Molly says in capital letters, why she has boisterously supported and continues to support her administration's policies up until she implements anything to the contrary. She was literally the final vote in the Senate. It was a tie. She's the vice president. She cast the tie-breaking vote that brought us the Inflation Reduction Act, the very policies that now she's going to come out against. She literally made sure those policies were the law with her vote, with her single vote. If you have anybody in your social media stratosphere on your Facebook page who is pretending to say that Kamala Harris really, this is not her economy, she doesn't have it, could you please remind them of that fact? That she literally was singularly responsible for making this economy the law of the land with her tie-breaking vote? But this is what she's going to try to do. This is why you need to watch us every single day, and why you need to subscribe or follow all of the town hall media websites, because we are covering it. You can't trust CBS or Axios to tell you why this matters. We'll let you know why it matters without telling you why it matters. Here she is trying to distance herself on everything, Joe Biden.
We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so that they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. When I was Attorney General, I went after price-fixing schemes. And when I am president, it will be a day one priority to fight to bring down prices. I will take...
This is typical class warfare bullshit, but sorry, I beeped the second one. By the way, prices are too high. And so as Attorney General, I used to go after corporations for price gouging. See, it's always some mean, dastardly man in a dark suit who's behind the curtain, who's, pulling the strings and making things cost more. You ask any reasonable economist who understands the way money works in a capitalist society and a free market like we have, or as free as market as we've got, why our prices are high right now, and they'll tell you it's because of government spending. There's no secret here. It's obvious. Everybody knows it. And notice two things that Kamala Harris does, and whenever she does it, I'll point it out to you, because you need to make this be part of sort of your monkey trick that you see every time too. So you can be Leo DiCaprio in the meme going. Whenever she talks about her record, she always hops and skips over her time as vice president and as a senator and goes right to attorney general or district attorney. Why is that? Because she is madly in love with executive authority. She is passionately intoxicated by authoritarian power, where when you're an executive, you can wield incredible power with the stroke of a pen. We played you the clip of her sort of bragging about the fact that as a district attorney, she could ruin your life by bringing charges against you, even a class 5 misdemeanor. You'd have to lawyer up. You'd have to miss days at work. You'd be embarrassed publicly. And then 2 weeks later, I could drop charges. No questions asked. Doesn't matter. I had the power to do it. That's terrifying. When you've got somebody who recognizes they have that power and then brags about it out in the open. And do you ever hear a district attorney use words like that and talk like that? Freaks you out. But she doesn't talk about her time in the Senate, because she was literally ranked number 1 out of 100 as the most liberal, most radical, more so than Bernie Sanders in her voting record. She doesn't want you to know about that. And as vice president, she has been completely and totally inconsequential. The few responsibilities that she had, she has bungled. So she will not talk about being vice president. She will not talk about being a senator. She'll go all the way back to attorney general. And it's always, it was me fighting against the bad guys who were ruining everything. Anybody who thinks corporations ruined California, I'm sorry, you're just an imbecile. Democrats ruined California. Democrats like Kamala Harris, Jerry Brown, Nancy Pelosi, and Gavin Newsom. They ruined California. But she will go back and point to those jobs. So and notice that when she does it, because it's pretty glaring. Also, by the way, any keen observer of this program knows that we predicted this yesterday. Here, take a look at this tweet from Philip Wegman. He is the White House reporter for Real Clear Politics, and he points out, as this is Jim Vandehey tweeting out about how Kamala Harris wants to distance herself and take a break from the Biden policies. He says, at the White House, when asked what Biden sees as Harris's big achievement, Karine Jean-Pierre declined to parse the record. She told Real Clear Politics instead that the last 4 years have been a comprehensive whole. Now, that might sound familiar to you because we did an entire segment on this yesterday featuring that reporter, Phil Wegman, for Real Clear Politics.
Bit of a throwback, but
I told you at the time how critically important. I told you this yesterday. Go back and watch yesterday's show. I think we broke this out as a separate segment too. You don't have to watch the whole podcast. Just watch this segment. It's right there. Wherever you're watching us right now, it's right there. This was critically important because we telegraphed this for you yesterday. This is why you need to watch us. We said Kamala Harris is going to try to break from Biden, but she can't now because Karine Jean-Pierre stepped in it yesterday. This is Phil Wegman's first asking about Afghanistan, but then Karine Jean-Pierre takes it one step further. Watch it again. This is from yesterday.
the vice president has said that she was the last person in the room with President Biden ahead of his decision to order U.S. troops to pull out of Afghanistan. Was the vice president in full support of his decision to order that withdrawal and in full support of the way that it was implemented?
I mean, she answered that question herself. I don't have anything else to add. It sounds like she answered the question herself, right?
She said that she was in the room previously.
But didn't you also said she was in support?
I'm asking you if the president believes that the vice president was in full support of his decision.
All right. So you're going to see the answer here, but that was the critical moment where Wegman's question is, no. I'm not asking you what she said. I'm asking you because you're the spokesperson for the president. Did the president think that the vice president was in full support of the Afghanistan withdrawal? And if Karine Jean-Pierre says yes, that means that if Kamala Harris says, yeah, I wasn't really in support of that, she either lying to you right now or she lied to the president in her private capacity as his number one final voice in the room about the withdrawal. You can see that this question boxes Kamala Harris in. Karine Jean-Pierre didn't see it. And in fact, she extended it even further beyond Afghanistan. Watch.
I believe, and as you have seen them in the past 3.5 years, they've been partners, critical partners. It doesn't matter if it's domestic issues, also foreign policy issues. And that has been the case from day one.
There you go. Doesn't matter if it's domestic issues or foreign policy issues. They have been partners from day one on everything. And she affirmed the president thinks that she was on board with everything. So when Kamala Harris now tries to distance herself from Biden policies, the only thing that should be asked is, all right, are you lying right now? Or did you lie to Joe Biden? Because according to his spokesperson, he thinks you were on board with everything. And not just his spokesperson. Earlier today, on MSNBC, I believe this was late yesterday or early this morning, Susan Rice, one of the top advisors in the White House to Joe Biden during the first years of the Biden administration, Susan Rice said this about Kamala Harris's participation in the Biden administration's policies.
But I think it's very important to remember that this has been the Biden-Harris agenda. Kamala Harris has been an integral architect and executor of the policies of the Biden-Harris administration. So there will be important, as there should be, aspects of continuity in many policy areas. But of course, the vice president will outline her vision and where she sees opportunities to advance their collective agenda, the Biden-Harris collective agenda, and take it further forward. I think we all look forward to hearing that. But this notion that she somehow doesn't deserve credit for and isn't part of and wasn't an integral architect of the Biden-Harris administration agenda is not only false, it's frankly somewhat bizarre and offensive.
Bizarre and offensive. That's right. How dare you? See, Susan Rice is trying to help Kamala Harris, she thinks, by saying, hey, Kamala deserves credit for all the great successes that Joe Biden has had over the last 4 years. So this idea that she wasn't an architect right along with Joe on all the great good times we're having right now is offensive. How dare you suggest she had nothing to do with this? And at the same time, the Harris campaign is trying to figure out a way to separate themselves from the Biden administration. Those are the two clips you need right there. You just saw them right here. Between Karine Jean-Pierre saying they were partners 100% of the time, whether it was domestic policy or foreign policy. And now Susan Rice. So is Susan Rice lying? Did Susan Rice not know what was going on in the White House? Was she just lying to, sort of support Joe and Kamala at the time, but now she's back? We'll have to figure it out. But it sure seems like if Kamala Harris tries, as it appears she's going to, if she tries to separate herself from Joe Biden, then somebody's lying. Big time. And of course, the answer is all of them. They'll say whatever they have to retain power.